Howdy, folks. Welcome back. So, here we are over at our magnetic field lines, and let's just take a little pull back from this here a little bit because I want you to see the date here. This is, whoops, there was a date up here too as well. Okay, this was the 11th, January 11th of 2023, the day we had our event, okay? Our little reversal event, if you know what I mean. And here is our magnetic field lines. Now, when something like this, on a scale like this happens, it's going to affect our magnetic field lines. So I went into research real quick this day to see what was happening. And these are usually long and stretched out like this, but we had this swirling event right here. And we'll go a few frames forward and backward through it. Okay. And then look at this green. These are different field lines. So real quick, I want you to watch that, and then we'll back up real quick to that frame. See this right here, this jumbled mess? Okay, we're going backwards in time. All right, this is what it usually looks like. You know, these are field lines that are loops. So we're gonna do real quick, zoom in here, and okay, here's our little legend right here. The red lines are closed field lines. They come out and they go around, they loop, and they come back in, and they're closed circuit like a circuit. Okay? The green ones are the polar caps. They come out of the polar caps and they extend back and they stream all the way back. Okay? So the blue ones are IMF lines. These are the Earth's magnetic field is connected to other objects in the solar system and in the universe and in the galaxy. These IMF lines are connections to other objects other than our sun. Okay. So those explains those three different colors. These lines are coming down. They usually connect here, and when we have a CME that's Earth directed, it hits these, bends these back. Okay. So just to give you a quick description of how this instrument works. So we're going to go back in time here to earlier on the 11th, okay? And I'm reporting on this first because this was a significant day and this is more data of our event. Okay, notice our little red lines are just hanging out right here, nice and calm, and they stretch out a little bit, and then they start to really stretch out, and then they disappear. This whole blob of magnetic material turns into these blue field lines and disappears. Okay, now as we progress here, we got CMEs hitting the sun, or hitting the earth here, and solar wind that's hitting the earth that are causing these little disruptions and these blasts and stuff. But our red loops are supposed to stay, nice and tucked in. They get stretched out a little bit, but they should be nice and oval shaped loops like this. Okay, that's normal activity. You see this inbound wave hit, boom. See all this flex back? We're going backwards, boom. It hits, it reacts, and it's still doing fine. Okay, the red lines are still doing fine. Then they get really stretched out here and they disappear. Something ripped that away again. Look how all these blue lines bend backwards, reacting to this inbound wave. Here's one of these waves, or off the sun, or an inbound wave. As it hits, it stretches these out some more. Okay, so it's acting normal. It starts to get disrupted. Then we start to have these events right here where it gets all stretched out long and it disappears again. So either our Earth is having like a gamma ray burst, or it's emitting some energy as well. These CMEs are squeezing the Earth, and the Earth is reacting by emitting some excess energy somehow through these magnetic field lines. All right, now these are going to get disrupted here now because I think this is where our core starts to do its little shimmy. And then it fires back up a little bit. Dies, fires up again. And then we get this event where it gets all swirly and crazy. Oops, right here. Boom. These are all broken. It turns to green. Now these are polar cap field lines. Are no longer just going out in a little loop and coming back into the cap. Now they're swirling around out here. Okay? This is an odd signature for this for this instrument, okay? I believe this might have something to do with our event because we're here on the 11th, the very day that it happened, and these are what our field lines looked like on those days. So it's definitely affecting the magnetic field lines that are generated by the Earth, okay? And that was about it for the 11th. Here's the last little bit. So now let's do a quick little refresh of the date. Let's go to today's because we're going to start checking this instrument every day now. And oops, let me go right to the calendar. My bad. And just a second while that applies and loads up. Okay, so we've had our Schumann resonance being disrupted. We've found that the X-ray flux is the disruptions in the sun. And now we're over here at the Earth looking at our magnetic field lines because we're expecting to see disruptions from that. Now, here we are today. Okay, let it run its path, and we're still spinning, we're still generating field lines, but look how twisted and jumbled and circular and stuff they are out here. So I believe that this is showing our turbulence. This turbulence out here is a reflection of the turbulence being generated in the Earth. This turbulence is being reflected out here in these red closed magnetic field lines. Okay, and that's what we were expecting to see results would be in these field lines. Look at that, all right? That was weird. So that's today. And we're still progressing through this, so I'll let it continue. There's another one of these weird blobs, and then it gets torn away and starts over again. See this jumbled mess again. So our magnetic field lines are getting all haywire and going circular and crazy and changing from the polar caps to the reversing from the polar caps to the closed field lines, and just kind of odd behavior now from this instrument. And before we were looking at this and we were studying the CMEs and how it had its effect and would drag stuff like this, but now we're understanding more what the field lines do, how they're generated, and what, look at that. Wow. That was huge. Okay? And that was today. These are current conditions. Now let me speed it up just a little bit for you guys. Boom. It's just going crazy. Boom. Look at this. Whoops. Let me go in a little tighter for you folks. There we go. Get this out of the way. No, I can't. Wait, let's try something here. Okay, there we go. Now we're seeing way better. See these jumbled messes? We're backing up a little bit. Okay, here we go. See how it's coming out, swirling around. It's like its own magnetic field out here, making figure eights. I don't know what this is. This is just odd, okay? So, boom, here comes a big plume of this magnetic blob squirting out of the Earth. And there goes another one. Look at this. Look at all this confusion and haywire stuff going on in here. So, we are getting readings now, strange readings from our magnetic field lines, just as expected. Okay, so that's enough of this for right now. We're going to go more into depth in that in another video. So let me back out of here, and here we are at the C3 instrument, because the red one, the Soho, is not having any data today. They didn't download any data. And according to everybody, there was no CMEs, but there was. So let's take it back a little bit. Wait. Yeah, it's good. Right about here. So here we are. Whoops. All right, here we are, the first frame of the 29th, okay? It's 054, the 29th. And let me scoot this down a little bit. Click on this. All right, now as we start going, you can see we've had a CME come off the sun right here, okay? I looked at this closer on stereo A, and there's a little black object right here that initiated the CME. It looks like there's a secondary one in here too. We'll look at that closer at another angle, another satellite. But there's also an inbound sun diving comet over here, and as you watch, it comes in, boom, here comes the second CME. This is now the 30th. We're 4 hours into the 30th, UTC time that is. And here we have another CME coming off the sun. And that was the last frame right there. So we've had two CMEs come off the sun. This one looks like it's induced by another little object, which we will go to a different satellite once that data is up. And I'll go into detail more on that event. Something else I wanted to point out in here as we're backing up right now. Okay, so we're watching all this stuff jumping around, and here we have this object streaking through here again with its little debris tail that it has. What we've nicknamed the Ahura Mazda craft. And it'll show up here in just a second again, and I'll show you which one we're talking about. So here's this streaking through, okay, the craft that's circling the sun out there. We have in our CME start, and here's our craft shows up again. So now I'm going to zoom in on this so you guys get to see this. It's not the best capture of this craft. We've seen much better, but here it is with its little debris tail, whatever it emits, streaking through there. Okay, like I said, it's not the best capture, but it's streaking through there. We saw the streak go across here. Now it's captured again over here, all while we're having this sun diving comet coming in, and our objects reacting to the sun, or our sun reacting to these objects actually. Okay, so there's our two CMEs for the 29th and the beginning of the 30th. All right, that's out of the way. Now let's back out of this here and go over to another site. This computer, please cooperate. Come on, guys. Thank you. And see, let's go over to the Solar Ham site. Bear with me for a second here, folks, because we're still dealing with some important information. Okay, thank you, Lord, for pulling this up. All right. Here we are over at our X-ray flux, which we now know is, is the like the Schumann resonance for the sun. Okay, I explained this in the last couple of videos, how the Schumann resonance is recording the grinding of the core of the Earth, and we're having the same. It's the same dynamo that's inside the Earth that works inside the sun, creating an electromagnetic field. So as we've been noting here, since right about here, this instrument has now gone down below B class level, which the sun's going quiet, but that's almost too quiet. This is almost a sign of what happened with the Earth happening to the sun right now. And thank goodness for this latest CME right here that's popped us out of B class. And the CMEs that I just showed you barely register on here. They should be pretty big spikes on here, right? At least something like this for the size of those CMEs I just showed you. I mean, we're seeing a little one here, but it came out of B range just to reach up into C range with the CME. So that's telling me the sun is reacting here. It's getting slower and quieter. And even when these objects pop off, it barely makes above B class now, or above B class into C. So I don't think that's a tight enough view for you guys. So I'm going to try to go tighter for you here, because I need you to see where this line, yeah, there we go. Oh, come on now. Well, you saw where that line right here is just barely creeping above this B class or into the C class range here. Okay, there, that's about good enough. All right, so it's strange how now we have these big CMEs, these big blasts, but they don't register much on this graph anymore. It's almost as if the sun's kind of grinding to its own halt or something. So, enough of that. As we continue down, I want you just to take note. They report no noteworthy events detected. Okay, I take that those two CMEs are just not noteworthy. We come over to here. This says no CME events logged. Okay, so we can't even find out what direction they're going in because there's nothing on the tracker. Here's the tracker. It's showing nothing. No CME at all. So I guess this thing needs to update here, and it's no good until it's updated. So we're back out of this instrument. They did report right here. Let me just read this real quick for you guys. A moderate solar flare. Measuring M4.6 was just observed. That was the one I showed you earlier, from the AR3 whatever sunspot towards the southwest limb. The event is likely triggered by a coronal mass ejection, which we saw, the CME. However, due to the event's location near the limb, it will likely be directed away from the Earth. More updates to follow. So it's not an Earth-directed one. It's over here on the limb. See this lower one on the limb right here? This is our M-class one that I showed you earlier, coming off in the in that blue satellite one. Okay. And then where else were we going? Oh yes, thank you. Let's go check out the Schumann resonance now. So 1 second as we jump around and do the little dance to get to the link. It is the Russian site, because apparently this is not very available anymore. So I put a link right there. Yeah.
There's like this little high intense squeak pop.
All right, pardon me there. Now let's read this screen here. Please pull this up. Yay, all right, here we are at our Schumann resonance. And let me just zoom in on this for you folks. Okay, so here we are. We've had a little squeak and a little pop here. The good thing is this thing is still squeaking and popping and moving. Even though it's in the opposite direction, it's still moving and generating a magnetic field protecting our planet. So it's when this thing goes blank and goes dark that we got to worry. So for the moment, we're going backwards, but we're squeaking and popping along. These scratches that are formed, that appear here, some of them earlier looked like they were in reverse. So, like, I don't have an example to point out to you, but they do appear, instead of the scratch starting at a spot and then tapering off, it has this tapering off effect and then a sudden stop. So that's what I'm talking about, the reversal kind of imagery that we were seeing. I don't really have the best example here to show you. All right, let's look a little closer here. We still have this little line down here. This is a lower frequency, or a higher frequency. The lower ones are up at the top. And our main line should be running right through, right about here. So we're having all kinds of frequencies. You can see that our core is still going along, but it's grinding still. This is probably where we had absorbed some energy, the day before, and it took about a day to absorb. So there's that. Now, it's just good that it's moving along still. Okay, so we're checking in on it, making sure heart's still beating. Okay. Then I wanted to take you to one other place, and we'll wrap this up. Come over here. Let's just check and see if we got any data. See, look, here we are. No data for the 29th and 30th right now. But what we do have is stereo A. So we're going to sneak on down here, let it load up. Okay, and then we're going to pause it. Boom. Whoops, back up. Wait. My bad. Reverse. Start this again. Okay, so here we are with our first CME coming out of the bottom. This looks to be, it's coming at this camera, which is just off to the left of Earth. We have what appears to be a little dark object right here in the center, right here. There appears to be a secondary object captured right there. Let me do this real quick for you folks. Okay. Just barely make it out here. Here's our dark round object. Here's its magnetic field. It's creating a CME. It's pulling plasma off with it like we've seen before. And we come over here and we'll just zoom in real quick on this side. And you can make out, here's our dark little object right here. And then as we progress out, whoops, here comes a secondary object. Here's our first one moving out. Here's a secondary one. What looks like maybe something else trailing it. Here they are moving out. There's one there, the darker one there. Boom. So we had two objects right here moving out of frame, causing that first CME. And then as we continue on, it catches the very beginning of this second CME. And not much captured right here, but here would be our object right about there. And let me see if on the red side it corresponds. Yeah, because right here is our little dark object right here in the corner, right where it was showing on that one. Tip this up a little bit. Yeah, you can barely make out. Here's where our little object is, creating that dark patch. We go back a frame. Now, let's take this thing out of the way too. Oh well. Well, that's about the best frame right there that captures it. So here we have our objects back causing CMEs around the sun right here, ripping plasma off. These, they say they're not Earth directed, but once we get more data, I think maybe that's why the data is not out right now, because it might indicate that it's, you know, other things. So that's about it for tonight. So, oh, one more thing I need to do. Tomorrow will be the 30th. So we need to go 3 days back from the 30th to see what to expect for tomorrow. So we check on the 27th to see what kind of activity there was. And sure enough, we had activity on the 27th that would be due to interact with us tomorrow. While this is loading up, there's a good blast right there. Here's our object coming out, creating another CME. This blast hasn't been shown on any other, instrumentation as to what direction it's going. So we just assume that it's kind of coming this way, because it sure looks like it is. And this energy looks to go south of the planet again, so I would expect the southern hemisphere to see there, any kind of reactions to be happening in the southern hemisphere of the planet. And it has a pretty strong magnetic field. There was, I believe, two objects, one in front of this secondary one, so we might get a little double whammy tomorrow. Okay, just might. I'm not 100% sure, but we're still perfecting this science. So it looks like we had a couple of objects coming south of the Earth, probably around today or tomorrow, or late tomorrow. So that's it for tonight. And until we get more data, I'll be back with more. And I love you all. I miss you all. God bless you all. And until my next report, bye.